Hey, yeah, you. Let me ask you a question. Is this the America you want to live in? Yeah, me too. But I think there's change coming soon. We should check out the Papa Jeff's America podcast. What do you mean who? PG the OG. No, not original gangster. Old guy. Oh yeah, that Papa Jeff. Now you know what I'm talking about. Hey, why are we whispering? This is America.
Say their names. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, Sean Reed, Tony McDay, Alton Sterling. Say their names. Somebody please say their name. Philando Castile, Brent Thomas, Lauren Ahern, Michael Smith. Say their name. Please. Trayvon Martin, Eric Gardner, Terrence Crutchard, Tamir Rice, Mike Brown. Say their name. Freddie Gray, Antonio Martin, Walter Scott, Jamar Clark, and Sandra Bland. Please say their name. These are just a few that have lost their lives. Say their name. Somebody please say their name. A person cannot be religious and indifferent to other human beings' plight and suffering. Say their names. Please say their names and don't forget.
Person cannot be religious and indifferent to other human beings' plight and suffering. Welcome to the Papa Jeff's America podcast, recorded live in Houston, Texas. We're continuing the conversation one podcast at a time. A conversation about what's going on in our world. Politics, government, world events, with different points of view. The things you want to talk about, with commentary, exhilarating guests, and what would a day be without Papa Jeff's classic old guy humor. But here's a question to consider. Is this the America you want to live in? So now, with one sort of kind of good eye and definitely a face for radio, here's Mr. Here We Go himself, PG, the OG, Papa Jeff Cameron. Hey everybody, it's me, Papa Jeff. OG Radio is on the air. Welcome in. This is Papa Jeff's America. We're the internet podcast that talks about the things that America, that you want to talk about. I am your host, PG, the OG. Hey, write down our contact telephone number. You're going to need it. It's 281-940-6980. 281-940-6980. You can call us or text us with your thoughts and comments, or you can also drop us an email at our website, papajeffusa.com. OG Radio Houston weather for Sunday, September the 20th. The National Weather Service says a high today of 75 with an overnight low of 69. Currently, Houston Hobby is 71, Bush Intercontinental is 70. And at the OG Radio studios in Houston, Texas, it's raining. And we are under a tropical storm warning because Tropical Storm Beta is in the Gulf. But right here, right now, it's 73 degrees. So let's get after it. Our guest this week is Jeff Baker from Portland, Oregon. He's got a lot of really interesting career history and a lot of cool things to share. So I know you're going to enjoy it. This interview we recorded on Saturday, September the 19th of 2020. And we hope you enjoy your time with Jeff as much as we enjoyed our time with him making this interview. You definitely want to have him come back again. All righty then, PG America. It's OG time, so here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Papa Jeff's America. We're glad you're with us today. And our Fantastic interview today is going to be with an old friend of mine. We've known each other since phones had dials. Gen Z, you have no idea what that is, and you're saying in the background, "Okay, boomer." As long as you're not saying "Bye, Felicia," we're good. Jeff Baker is our guest today, and Jeff is in Portland, Oregon. So he's safe up there. We've had several conversations about what's been happening in Portland, and he's going to give us a little rundown there of what's been happening. Some of what's been coming out in the news is actually been happening, and some of it is it's political stuff. But we're gonna let Jeff talk about that. Some big things that are happening with Jeff. He's a former TSA agent, official. I don't know what the proper terminology is there, but Jeff was with TSA for just short of 100 years, I think. Sometimes I feel that old. And he's worked in several different locations. I remember following him on Facebook, and he's over here and he's over there, and that's an interesting place to work, and a lot of people have a lot of thoughts about that. So does he. So he's going to share some of his thoughts with us, and he does live in Portland, and he's going to tell us about what he's doing now. And I think the big part here is that he is going to be launching a podcast here very shortly. And I've been tempted with coming on his show, which I'm excited about that because we know that I love to talk about myself. And so we'll be doing that down the road here, and we'll get the information on his podcast. We're going to let him talk about that. But Jeff, welcome in. Thanks for being with us on this Saturday today. It's kind of a somber day for our country with the passing of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And then there's a political side of it too, because the one side of the aisle is racing to get their stuff done, but she'll definitely be missed. And, we send our best to her family, and rest in power. Notorious RBG for sure. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning, Jeff. It's a pleasure to be on your show today. I want to thank you so very much to having me here. It's exciting, and I've been looking forward to this.
Awesome.
And I owe you a debt of thanks for getting me more towards my goal of my own podcast. So I appreciate that. I give you a lot of props for that.
Oh, well, thank you. It's like my middle son would say, just make the check out to my middle name, Cash.
Yeah, there you go. There, Cash. Exactly. That's it. I'll send that check right away.
You're going to be great. Since I've done it, I have enjoyed it immensely, and we're getting good reviews. We're getting mixed reviews. We're getting, what are you thinking? And I am so glad that you are out there and you are saying the things that we want to say and we have just been afraid to say, or we're, as I say in my tagline, we're talking about the things that America wants to talk about. And
exactly.
Although our platform is not as huge as I certainly plan for it to be, it's there, and we're talking about it, and our podcast is getting shared, and I know that yours is going to be too. So you're going to be great, and we're going to give you all the support here in your new venture that we possibly can. You're going to be great, and I commend you, and 100% props to you for sure. Talk about TSA. Tell us about TSA.
Oh, TSA, when it was first started right after 9/11, I joined in 2005 because I had to go back and work for my government. And after everything that happened in 9/11, I felt compelled, and I was too old to go back to the Army again, and too cranky at that point in my life. And so I joined the TSA, and it started initially, I think, in a lot of places. It was called Wackenhut, was the company that was doing airport security. And then the government took over. And when the government took over, of course, it made things a lot more complicated.
That's shocking.
There were a lot of problems. But the organization itself, in my opinion, had and has the ability to be a really good agency. There's approximately 47,000 TSA employees, many of which are former and still active duty military. I think the average I believe is 5 years of service in the average right now, which sounds horrible, at least to me. That doesn't sound good. And there are reasons for that. A lot of burnout. Um, you take, I would think, I think it's fair to me to say that the average U.S. citizen could not handle being an agent with the TSA. I say that
I would
it's
agree.
not physically hard. Pardon?
I would agree.
Yes.
You're one of those, you're in one of those positions where people love to hate you. You're doing your job. You're serving your country, and people love to hate you.
Oh yes. It's a thankless job. We get called names constantly. I've been called a Nazi a few times. The first time I took it a little personally, and then after that, I just kind of looked at them and whatever. You get called rapists, molesters, and all because the officers are doing the job. I had a if you want to call it a tagline with when I was a supervisor with them to all my officers at every briefing in the morning. Don't forget, you don't get paid enough to take the crap. Call me.
There you go.
And because there was a lot of it. And I was fortunate enough that I had the support of my officers who would do just that, because the agency looks at as soon as someone says something to you and you turn around and retort, you're wrong. Automatically, you're wrong. So the best thing I can do is say, when someone's getting in your face and yelling and screaming and calling you names and refusing to do anything, you just stop. You call me. I will come take care of it because I get paid more.
Yeah.
So let's handle it. And I can do more than a regular officer can as a supervisor that they don't have the authority to do.
But still not enough money, I'm sure, to...
It is not.
Yeah,
We tell you,
yeah.
no one does it for the money. No one does it
no.
for the money. You know, it's a terrible business. The saying goes that in the agency that the bad guys or the terrorists or whatever you want to call them can be wrong 1,000 times and nothing happens.
Yeah.
You know, no one pays per se. TSA can be wrong once and you can lose hundreds of people, thousands of people.
Yeah.
Just because we missed one thing or we're wrong one time. So the pressure is enormous, and that's one of the reasons for burnout, along with how the agency does things and has a tendency to treat its employees. There are a lot of people they burn out in no time. I've had people that were in my class that worked one day and quit.
All that training and then I can't
all that training, yeah. When I started, there was averaging about $15,000 to train an officer. And I would say a good third wouldn't last more than a couple months.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awful. It's truly, it's not a great business to be in. The reason behind it is a wonderful reason.
Yeah.
And that's why people went there, because they wanted to serve the country in a way they couldn't before or at that time. A lot of our generation joined TSA because they couldn't do military anymore. They couldn't do, law enforcement per se. So this was a great way for them to get back and serve their country, because you and I grew up in a generation where serving the country was almost a given.
Yes.
That's just what we did.
You wanted to do it.
Exactly.
And it was an honorable thing to do, and you weren't put down for it. So
yeah.
Times have changed.
Now times have changed a lot. But then, you have the funny things and the fun things that happen in the agency. I mean, stories I could tell would take days. And of course, some things I can't talk about how the agency does because I'm still under oath for that. But we've had people the strangest things in suitcases that you could ever imagine. You'll get to a point where you're on your x-ray, you spot things, what something is by looking at it. But if you have a new person, you have to toy with them. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
And so, when we have in Las Vegas, every year we have the adult. I can't think of the name of it now. It's the adult pornography convention,
Okay.
and it's
All right.
every year, right? All the big stars of porn and all the movies and all the stores and all these things congregate. And what comes through the x-ray is amazing, what you get to see. And so when you have a new person, you get them to do the bad checks and say, I don't know what that is. Well, you know what it is. They don't. And so they go through the back and they start pulling out all these toys.
It's a rite of
And just to
passage,
see
though,
the
like you
shock,
said.
the shock of on their face is fantastic. That was always fun.
That's great.
Yeah, I got to meet a lot of different politicians and celebrities
Yeah.
in my years there, most of which were really terrific people. Most,
Sure.
some, not so much.
Sure.
One of the nicest people in the world was Wayne Newton, Mr.
Oh,
Las Vegas himself. Used to come through quite a bit. Talked to all the officers that came around him, acted like he knew every one of us by name. Really a genuinely nice human being. Then on the opposite end of that, there are a couple of performers that have a show there. I'm not going to mention their names. That would, after a show after a weekend show, let's say like on a Sunday, they would be flying to wherever. And the taller of the two, he and his wife, would start chipping their teeth as soon as they got into line because they hated the TSA. We were molesters and we had no right to do this, and they're Americans. And it would start from the time they got in line because people would recognize them. And it would go all the way through, and they would refuse certain things, so they had to be patted down each and every time. And then they could scream and yell and cause a commotion over that. And it got so bad that the police department, Metropolitan Police Department, who is, mind you, a fantastic division. I cannot compliment LVMPD enough. Would come over and talk with them, and they finally told him once, he says, if you're going to continue this, you're going to be banned from the airport, because it happened every time they came in. Now, that's their constitutional right to complain. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not upset about that. But you don't have to take it out on my officers and make it bad for them with a name calling and make them feel blow, turtle poop. I don't know if I can say that in the air.
Don't fly if that's how you want to be, and then don't fly. Get on the Amtrak or something. Oh,
exactly.
Wait a minute. Amtrak doesn't come into Las Vegas anymore.
Right. So it was a very interesting job, and I actually recommend it to people, especially young people who want to get their foot in the door with the federal government. It's a good way. I won't say a great way. It's a good way to get your foot in the door, as long as you are going to continue your education and try and move further up and maybe go into a different agency, the FBI or the Secret Service or the CIA. I have a lot of my former officers are with different agencies now, and I'm so very proud of them.
That's great.
Because they did a great job for us, and then we're able to move on. And it's a wonderful thing. I like to see that happening, and good people going to different areas to show others the way, in a sense. So it is a recommendation. I really think people should get more involved in keeping our country safe, and this is a great way of doing it, or a good way. You just have to put up with a lot of nicest way I can put it, crap.
Well, it seems like on all levels these days, it sounds like the two that you were describing that made their fuss in the airport each time, they're probably anti-maskers these days. And, it's some people, it just, you work at Walmart these days, you take flack from people, because we've all seen the videos of the Costco manager, telling Karen or whoever, that she needs to put her mask on, and I'm not going to do that, and I'm a doctor, and okay, come on, you go shop someplace else. Hey, have a nice day. And
exactly.
And with all due respect, if you don't like what we're doing, it's not me that's doing it. I'm doing a job. I'm following
Right.
a law. We're a government agency. I'm here to protect you. I'm not here to hassle you. If you
Right.
don't like it, certainly you're not going to say that. I'm sure you're thinking it is. Then don't fly.
Oh yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
just trying to come in, do my job, and go home. That's
Right.
what I'm trying to
You know,
do.
and I
But
want to
you
do,
have
and that's
helped.
exactly what's supposed to happen, and it doesn't always happen. I've had people come up to me and be all upset because I get one of my officers calls me over and they're PO'd about whatever, and the standard line is, "Do I look like a terrorist?" And my line back would be, "Yes." And that usually stunned them because they weren't expecting that. Their thought of a terrorist, and I can't speak for now, but when I was with the agency, was, "I'm not Arab. I don't wear a turban. And that was their thought. I said, and I just mentioned the name, Timothy McVeigh.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if they even knew who that was, which,
Right.
and a lot of times they didn't, they were stunned again. And then a lot of the time they would get quiet and just, let's get this over with. And I made my point. You don't need to be nasty about things. We all have jobs to do. And I may not like what you do, but that's your job, and that we have rules.
Exactly.
You have the right to complain and not like anything we do. And I get that. And talk to your politician, because Lord knows that they got involved in a lot of it through the years. But people forget that as times change, in the travel industry with terrorism and respect to terrorism, it was like with the shoe bomber. We had things changing every few minutes, Jeff, because so many politicians and people on pushing pencils knew better.
Yeah.
And they couldn't come up with a concrete thing. It had to change, because there's so much was going on. As more information was coming in, they would change things. So instead of saying, this is what we're going to do until we get all the information, it would change. And I'm not exaggerating. There were times that we'd put it out there, we'd walk back, and we'd get a phone call. No, we're doing this now.
Oh, I believe you.
So so it's hard on the passenger and it's hard on the officers.
Yeah. Well,
It's
you
a
did it for a
thankless
lot of
job.
years, and you did it with pride, and you helped others within the agency and to move on to other things, and that's great, and that's commendable. So you could step away from there saying, hey, I did my job, and I'm happy with the job that I did, and not everybody's going to like you. Certainly not everybody likes me, but I walked away from the various things that I've done over the years, and specifically from being a paramedic. I walked away from that saying I helped a lot of people, and you can definitely do the same. And
No, I
now
do. Yeah.
you've got other things coming in. I know you're living in Portland now, and
Yes.
what's going on in Portland? I mean, because we're hearing all kinds of different stuff. I know you and I talked off air the other day, and you're in an area where you're not particularly in a hot spot, no pun intended. But what's going on up in Portland?
Well, the one good thing about the fires, with all the smoke that took over the city, and it kind of cut down on the protesting and the rioting. So that was a good option that came out of that. We were happy yesterday. We had some rain come through and help clear the air out, and we got upgraded to unhealthful. So we were happy about that.
I read that. I laughed when I read your post on that. Unhealthful, yay! That's an upgrade.
It's an upgrade, and today I think we're in the moderate, so that's even better. Portland is a very liberal city, Portland and Salem, and as far as the state of Oregon. And the protesting rights have went for 110 days straight, okay. I believe, maybe longer. Don't quote me on that one. And it's caused quite a mess in downtown. A lot of stores have closed. I don't know if they'll ever reopen. A lot of damage. And I'm not saying that for your listeners that might be concerned here, I'm not saying it's the peaceful protesters with BLM or with Proud Boys or
Right.
Antifa, which is not a favorite of mine. I will say that.
Right.
It's not so much them. It's the people that quote unquote join these different organizations for one reason,
Right.
and that's to create anarchy
Mm-hmm.
and to create violence and to break things, because the chances are they're going to get away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And in Portland in particular, it seems to be something they get away with a lot. And it's taken a toll. And here's a great one. I kind of find it humorous and sad at the same time. Where I'm at, which is about 7 miles out of Portland, is a beautiful community. It's very quiet. We don't have a whole heck of a lot of problems out here. I think the biggest problem our police department has is, traffic citations and things of that nature. But we have had an influx, a huge influx of the homeless population,
Mm-hmm.
because Portland has a huge population of homeless, because they felt so unsafe in Portland on the streets that they've moved out to all the suburb areas.
Oh my. Okay.
And that's how bad it was in Portland, and still is. It's homeless is a huge problem here. We spend, I think, $3.5 million a month right now.
Wow.
And they're expecting cost of about $650 million over the next 10 years just on homeless. And my opinion is we're throwing good money after bad. They're not helping these people.
Yeah.
11% of that are veterans, which pains me as a veteran myself.
Yes, I agree.
You know?
I am not a veteran, but thank you for your service, and it pains me as well. Absolutely. And when
It's
I
awful.
mention that, like in a social media or a whatever, it's well, you're just a socialist, Marxist,
Yeah.
leftist, liberal. Sticks and stones. But fact is fact. We're not taking care of our own people.
No. And Portland just goes above and beyond, and I think they're making it more enabling than they are helping. Case in point, this story just kills me. In 1996, long before I moved here, they built a place called Wapato Jail, and in 2003 they stopped. It's never been used. Okay, $54 million sat vacant. So a gentleman decided, hey, I got this great idea. I can buy the jail and use it, sell it back or lease it back to the city as a homeless shelter.
Okay.
Well, people in the council didn't like that. They decided to sell to a developer for $10.8 million. They paid 54 in bonds and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They ended up selling it for, I believe, $5 million. Okay. Never opened it, never used it. Nothing ever happened with it. Fortunately, the gentleman that bought it turned around and went to the other developer and said, yes, you can use this. And so they have been turning into a homeless shelter that is opening next week.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, and it should house quite a bit of people and do some actual real help. I believe the organization is Helping Hands, I think.
Okay, that's great.
Is the one that's going to be doing it, which is an organization that was started by a gentleman that was in that position, homeless, drug user, and straightened himself out and got himself going and doing all these things, and is now a prominent citizen of Portland and giving back to the community that he was once in as a teenager.
Well, there you go. That's how it's supposed to work. We go through things, and when we come out the other side, it's what do we do with it? And right. It sounds like he's doing the right thing. It almost sounds like the sounds like the Trump people did the math on how they sold it and how they worked their profit schedule out there. But all in all, I paid 50. Let me sell it for 10. Oh yeah, I'm going to make money. But we lose money on every sale, but we make it up in volume. Okay.
Right. Yeah. There one woman one councilwoman says, I think the people of Portland will be okay with this. And I'm like, really? Interesting.
She
If
had
you
it
say
in a
so.
dream or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
And she's a Democrat, mind you. Okay, so
little D maybe.
oh, yeah, apparently so. I don't know. You know, I'm more the moderate myself.
Yeah.
I lean Democratic, and I'm very moderate in my views. But it's, I don't know. It's just there's too much division. You know, people want to go. It's like vote straight Democratic ticket or vote straight Republican ticket, and I don't get that. I vote for the person, not the party.
And that's even what my daughters had said, because I put it out there in several different posts that in 16 I voted for Trump because
Right.
I liked the financial platform. I liked it. And I have since changed my views, and that's one good thing about America, that we are allowed to do that. And you know, they were curious as to why I did that. Well, you just voted for him because it's a Republican. And I said, no, yeah, you know, I was a registered Republican, and of course, you know, again, from our generation, you know, Daddy was a registered Republican, and Granddaddy was a registered Republican, and on and on and on. And so, but I was never I didn't vote the party ticket. I looked at the issues, you know.
Exactly.
Some of my friends would say, and even my middle son, who's, I want to say 38 now, I voted for Obama back in that day, you know. And some of my friends would say, you did what? You know, oh, come on, you know, I'm going to vote for the best candidate. And not getting into what we're upcoming on November the 3rd, but there's going to be a lot more happening from there. And it sounds like what's happening in Portland, we're getting, well, back in our day, they used to say that bad news like that, it sells newspapers. And so they're not going to point out the good stuff. And I think that story that you just told us, I think that's something that the media should cover. You know, it should be a nationwide thing. Here's what's happening. But you know, there's only so much space in the narrative per day. And so we don't hear about it. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and that's a positive thing, because we hear such negative things about Portland. And you know, our friend in the White House there is always putting out that, well, the governor of Oregon and the mayor of Portland and and we'll bring our people in and we'll put them down. And you know, and no, let's just, you know.
Well, I also don't agree with what's happening to our police department here either. I'm very pro-police, and they're being handcuffed in a lot of ways by the city council and the county commissions and different organizations. And it goes right back to like the TSA. They have a job to do.
Yeah.
You know, and are there bad cops? Absolutely. Just like there are bad Mickey D workers and bad, you know, sanitation workers and bad doctors. That's a fact of life. And you can't base an entire group of people on just the happenings of a few. I believe the numbers are less than 1% of problem police officers in the nation. You know, so what's happening here is not fair to them either. It's not been fair to either side, however you want to call it.
I agree. One of my friends who we I'll say banter on Facebook a lot. He lives here in Texas as well, and we're very good friends. You know, he says that's painting with a broad brush, and that's very true. You know, don't judge the book by its cover. All of that. And no, I think you're right. I totally support law enforcement. I have friends that work in law enforcement. I have friends that are retired law enforcement. You know, PG, the OG, the term PG is from a friend of mine who retired from the Reno Police Department. And, you know, when I would come on scene and everybody knew me as Papa Jeff, he would be, PG, you're here. I'm glad it's you, you know? And so that's where that came from. And I've had folks that have said, well, you just don't support the police. And of course I do. I may not agree with everything that's going on politically, but the actual boots on the ground, if you will, job that you're doing, I support that.
Yes.
And then there is, not everybody's good. Not everybody on the radio is good either.
No,
I mean,
no. I
it's
might
an
be proving that point soon.
it's
So,
and you are going to get your chance, my friend. Absolutely, you're going to be great. You're going to be great. So
uh,
what are you doing now? You had told me a little bit about you're working in like corporate security, or what are you doing now?
yes, I landed luckily, I was very fortunate to land a sweet gig working for a contract to a company named the Greenbrier Companies, and they're a manufacturer of rail cars and cargo ships.
Oh,
And we have plants all over the world and offices all over the world. I shouldn't say we. It's not. I'm contracted, so. But they treat me like a valued employee, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. The things they do for me, for an old guy, it is phenomenal. From the CEO down to the lowest level, like myself, the treatment is phenomenal. This company is extremely forward in how they do business. Um, uh, Bill Furman is the CEO and started the company 40 some odd years ago, I believe.
wow.
And it's just phenomenal how they view people and not just as employees, but they value there is an actual value on their people and things they do for the community, outstanding work they do for the community and for this country. And they just are such a forward thinking company that I'd like to see this happen to more major companies. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you hear a lot of good stuff about and bad stuff, of course, of like Google and Amazon and all these things. And Greenbrier is much smaller than those companies, even though we have a worldwide footprint. But they care. They really care. Yes, profits are important, and that's what a company does. A company's there to make money.
Sure.
That's just the way it is. You know what? That's fine. But they actually care about their environment they're in. They care about their employees. They care about their business partners and stakeholders and their customers. And you see it every day. Every day. I am so lucky to be there. Been there almost 6 years now, and I could not be, of all the jobs I've held, between being a bartender for over 20 years and the agency and the military I'm an ordained minister and where I do wedding officiant. I mean, all these things
Oh,
I'm
you
lucky enough
you
to
do
do.
do it all. Yes.
I do, yeah. It's the happiest I've ever been.
Well, there you go.
I mean, the happiest I have ever been.
Just when you say, that when you were describing the company as we, that says a lot because you are part of the team. Yeah, okay, contractor as opposed to captive employee. Okay, I get it, but it's the we. That's your mindset that you are part of the team and that you care where that company is going.
Oh, yes.
They're taking care of you. You take care of them. That's great. That's
Yeah,
great.
it's a phenomenal place. I wish everybody could have to work for a company that is as good as they are.
That's
And
great.
I mean that. I'm not trying to plug them. It does no good to plug them. They don't need my plugs. But they are just that phenomenal of a company
And
that I don't plan on going anywhere else.
what do you do for them?
I am corporate security. I have this wonderful gig where I get to sit in the lobby of the corporate office, and we have 3 floors of this building, and then there are other businesses there. And I have this big desk in the front, and I get to sit there and talk with people as they come in and out and direct them and badge people and camera watch occasionally. I do deliveries. They let me do just about anything I want.
There you go.
So it was initially started that I was to sit there and check people in and out. And I got bored with that really quick. Really quick. So through the years, I do a little bit of everything for them. And I'll get phone calls or emails. Jeff, I need. Jeff, I need. Jeff, I need. So I call myself the Greenbrier go-to guy.
There you go.
And I love it. I absolutely love it. It's a great, quote unquote, retirement gig.
There you go.
Because I really don't want to work hard anymore. I've done my years of that.
Yeah, I hear that. That's why I'm doing this. Granted,
There you go.
there's some health issues involved that have kind of pushed me into this, but as we were talking off air, and I
Mhm.
said that my feeling on this is that my views have changed on some things because my vision has changed so severely that it's caused me to look at things literally a different way.
Mhm.
And so that's what has brought me into podcasting, and I may not have a very big platform right now. Hopefully it's going to grow, but I've always wanted to be in radio, and I joke around that I have a face for radio,
Exactly. Yeah, I
and
got it. I'm right there with you.
that this is a great thing for me. I know this is going to be a great thing for you. You're a very positive person,
Thank you.
and the company that you're with right now, all of the agencies that you've been with, including our military, have been very fortunate to have you. But tell us
Very kind of you to
about
say.
the podcast that's coming. Tell us about your
Well,
next great adventure. I'll let
next
you
great
announce it and
adventure.
what's going to happen there.
Well, thank you. First off, I owe it to Papa Jeff for getting me the information and giving me what I needed to make me take the next step, and I will be forever grateful in that, Jeff.
You're too kind.
I was very excited to be on the show today, and I'm even more excited to be putting my podcast together. I'm still working some details out, not so much polishing as it is going through the checklist, making sure everything's ready. So when I do this, I do it as proper as possible. But it's going to be JB's Politics and Peeves.
All right.
So a little bit of everything, world politics, national politics, things that come up in that nature. And the peeves portion will be, it could be anything from slow cars in the fast lane.
There you go.
Someone not using your blinkers. Who knows? There's a lot of peeves out there. And I think that will probably be more the fun side of the show, the politics being primary. Things that are going on. Like your show, I would like to be able to have different guests on with different viewpoints. I may not
I am
agree, but like I
available,
said,
and I have a very reasonable speaking fee.
there you go, and I appreciate that because I'm going to need that to begin. I can't afford a lot here.
I work for coffee,
There you go. Oh, not my kind of guest. My kind of guest, and I can't wait to have you on. But
Looking forward to it.
It should be fun. I have to appreciate we can disagree without dislike.
Yes.
That is prominent, something I've thought for many, many years. It's just because I've said before, the division in this country, and it's my way or the highway, and no one wants to talk, and no one wants to listen, and I don't care what side you're on. I'm not putting blame on one particular side. It's throughout. And I'm hoping shows like yours and shows like mine can bring out people to actually listen, talk, discuss. You may not change any minds, but you might get a different viewpoint. And
Absolutely.
it might make you say, oh, wait a second. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
And maybe we can get a more of an understanding in people and politics. I talked to you earlier before we were broadcasting about the days of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill.
Yeah.
Two totally different people in their political beliefs, but in that day worked together for the betterment of this country. And that, my friend, has not happened in decades either.
Amen. Absolutely.
People say Obama was divisive, and I see where he was, but I think it was more who he was than what he was.
Yes.
And to me, it's even more divisive today because of the rhetoric and the hate. And that's general hate, just general hate. I'm not sticking up for one group or another. It's just hate across the board.
It is definitely there.
And fear.
And it is, yes. And I think a lot of it is fear of the unknown, which has been around for a long time. But it is definitely not, it's not like, and I mean, everybody that's, a little bit on the, I don't consider myself on the back nine, but some of us that are boomers, and
right.
and getting a little bit older. And I'd like to think wiser. Some days I question that, but
Well, I'm right there with you.
it's not like when we grew up,
No.
and I mean, nothing like it. We've got technology and we've got this and we've got that. And the phone used to be on the wall and you went and you actually dialed it. And I mean, oh, grandpa, and well, yeah. And who knew that those cell phones that we had, they were as big as a shoebox,
Right.
and most of it was battery. And, I guess that's part of old Papa Jeff's old guy humor that we talk about.
Yes,
But
yes, I
it's
get
the
it.
time that we came from, and it wasn't all bad. I enjoyed that. And now today I'm trying to get into the, when you want something done on your technology, give it to your teenager or whatever, but no, you're going to be great at it. It's a lot of fun. It's great to have a platform and to get other
Yes.
people's ideas. And that's mainly what I'm interested in doing. That's why
Exactly.
I've been fortunate, very fortunate and blessed to have folks come on like you. And we had Matt Parker. We're producing an episode with him. He's a railroad locomotive engineer, and we're going to title that "Working on the Railroad," and we've got that coming out, and we've had several others, and we have others to come. I have a gentleman that we're working on scheduling. You mentioned Timothy McVeigh earlier, and he was this gentleman was a paramedic, former paramedic that was in the Edward R. Murrow building disaster and was literally picking up pieces. And so we're going to have him on here sometime soon. And we just getting people to come on and actually operating on the budget, of course, that we all are.
Right.
It's great, and it gives them a platform to be able to share. And if you notice coming into podcasting, and I know I did, everybody's got a podcast about something, and it's just so varied. But I read a post the other day, and I think it might have actually been in the same podcast community group that you and I both belong to. And this one person had been podcasting for a number of years, and his numbers kind of fell off a little bit, and he was getting, and I'm going to quit, and I'm going to quit, and I'm going to quit. And he didn't. He kept going and just said, if I make a difference in that one person's life, what I'm talking about will make a difference. And he said the thing that really opened up his eyes to it is when one of his children came to him and said, "Dad, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Dad, I am so glad that you kept doing it, because you were talking about things, and the things that you were talking about, I was contemplating suicide. And because of your podcast that I was listening to and taking the things that you were saying, I didn't. I realized that I had self-worth, and the things that you were talking about made a difference." So if we can get our broadcast out to just one person and I'm not out to change minds either. Right. Some have said that, I want to be Howard Stern, the king of media. That's not what I'm after. No. I like some of the things that he's done. I don't like some of the things that he's done. I caught some flack the other day for saying that I admired Don Imus's broadcast career. Well, Imus made some pretty big faux pas. He stepped in it really, really big time. But because I admire the way that somebody did something doesn't mean that I agree with all their views. We can agree to disagree. And I don't remember who I stole that from, but I heard it from somebody, and disagree doesn't mean dislike. It just doesn't. And we can talk. And so we're going to be keeping our folks up to date on when JB's Politics and Peeves come out. You're going to let us know, and we're going to push that on our end and make sure that that's out there and our people get a chance to listen to you. And I'm looking forward to coming on your program, because Lord knows I've got politics and peeves, for sure. And so, of course, I'll bring some of my old guy humor with me, and
absolutely.
I'm originally from Southern California, and then was 15 years in Reno, and now I'm here in Houston. And our traffic, you talked about, fast in the slow lane or slow in the fast lane or whatever. If you're driving 60 here, you're not speeding. It's like 80 here is not speeding. And, Houston is so big that I heard him say before I moved here, they said Houston is an hour away from Houston. And it
I believe
literally is.
I believe it's Houston, not Houston.
And it is Houston. Yes, for sure. It's humble, even though it's spelled humble. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Y'all ain't from around here, are you, son? No, sir. I'm
No,
not.
sir,
But,
we're not.
but sure glad to be here. Jeff, thanks so much for coming on. Best of luck in your podcast. We're going to push it here, and you're going to be great.
I appreciate
appreciate you taking the time to come on. It's been great. Guys,
it was my pleasure.
Thank you. Guys, we've been talking with Jeff Baker from Portland, Oregon, and amongst another bunch of places over our time span of our years. He's a former TSA agent, officer, supervisor extraordinaire, military veteran, corporate security person now, and future podcast host. He's thanking me a lot, which I had very little to do with it. I shared a bunch of information, but I'd like to think that I helped with the inspiration, and people have inspired me. So I definitely want to share that. So Jeff, thanks again for coming on. We look forward to your new broadcast coming. Guys, this is Papa Jeff's America. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Thanks for joining us in Papa Jeff's America. Papa Jeff's America is recorded live at OG Studios in Houston, Texas, and is a production of Cameron Communications. Special thanks and musical credit to Texas Radio Fish, Galveston County, Texas, online at ccmixter.org. Please subscribe to our podcast at papajeffusa.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Check out our website at papajeffusa.com, where you can drop us an email, check out other episodes of our podcast, or you can link to all of our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and soon, our new YouTube channel. And you can also call or text us at 281-940-6980. Thanks again for joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you next time when we continue the conversation, one podcast at a time.